Hey guys, welcome to Etched. Today I'm going to take you through a handful of explainer videos just to give you an understanding of some of the terminology that we use when we're describing what Etched is and what Etched can do for you and your business. What is Etched? Etched is simply an online platform that enables anyone from creatives through to law firms and lawyers, right the way through to higher IP generating companies to secure their intellectual property on the blockchain swiftly, transparently, and cleanly using our platform. Simply drag and drop whatever it is you have, be it an MP3, a movie file, a PDF, whatever you feel is valuable to your company and your work, you simply drag and drop onto our platform. We do the magic, or the platform does the magic, and there you have it. Your asset library can be consolidated and they're ready to use as and when you need. So Etched is a platform that helps people secure their IP, but it's really important to understand what kind of IP we are talking about. Intellectual property is legal property that has been created by the mind, not necessarily the hands. So once we have created something, we've visualized it and we've brought it into the real world, that then becomes our intellectual property. There are four main types. There's patents, trademarks, design, and copyright. Patents are used for inventions and new technology. Trademarks are often a monopoly of the brand, of the wording, and of the logos. Design is the way that the product looks. And then we have copyright. In fact, copyright is fast becoming the single most important form of intellectual property in many commercial fields. The internet and advances in technology have brought about an explosion in creativity and an explosion in creative material. This is why copyright is special. Now, copyright is the hardest of the intellectual properties to really get a grip of because it is self-custodial. The moment we create something, we automatically and by default get the copyright. But how do we prove it? To date, it's been a very much a he said, she said kind of scenario. I did it, no, I did it kind of thing. All right. In many countries around the world, they do have a copyright registration, but it's ununified across the globe. So when we create something and that copyright is assigned to us by default, we need a more robust mechanism of actually saying to the world that this is mine, I did this, and I did this at this point in time. So what is Web3? So Web3 is a terminology that we use a lot at Etched. Web3 is the new era that we are moving into when it comes to the internet. So we had Web 1, which was a simple read-only encyclopedia style internet. So we could go online and we could just read things and watch things, and it was very, very simple and very, very basic. Then we moved into Web 2, which we're kind of currently on the fringes of at the moment, and that is when there's more interaction. We now have transactions, we have e-commerce, we have social media where we can upload to the internet as well as download from the internet, so we can see and we can contribute as well. But we're now moving into this Web3 space, which is basically where we can start to get the ownership back of what's happening online. We have far more security and it's far more decentralized. So Web 2 would have been these central governing companies that allow you to basically transfer through them. So let's say a Facebook or a Google. When we move into Web3 space, we're now in a decentralized world, so we can actually use the internet to be far more peer-to-peer without having to go through these central companies and governments like banks and social media platforms. So this Web3 world that we're going into is going to be far more secure, and it's going to be far quicker and easier to actually transact between people online. So what is blockchain technology? So using the Web3 example of being able to deal with each other peer-to-peer, blockchain technology enables that. And blockchain is a kind of, as the name suggests, it's a chain of blocks. Each of those blocks needs to verify each other as you send a message through it. Let's think about it kind of like a Chinese whispers. All right, so the Chinese whisper needs to be correct before it moves on to the next block. Okay, it needs to meet a certain amount of criteria, and there's a certain list of things that need to be met before it will go from block to block. Now, this chain will run through multiple computers around the world in a decentralized manner, which means that it's not all coming into one hub, it's going off and it's using all of the computers around the world to come back with a green light to basically say that that Chinese whisper has come back absolutely as it was sent. The mechanism of doing that goes over my pay grade. We'll explain that in some other videos with some of the technical guys. But as a concept, that is a very secure and very transparent way of showing something that is immutable. So we want to prove that what we've done is ours and when we've done it. The when we've done it part, the time stamping is really, really useful because we can show that we've done the work. And using the blockchain technology, it goes onto it, it goes through the blocks, it will come back with the green light, and only at that point can we say that this is what it is. Now, the transparency side of that means that someone can come in and view that, not necessarily view what it is you've done, but once you give them the ability to see that transaction train, they can then go on and say, okay, this is legitimate, it is what it is, and it verifies the whole thing, and it gives you that block of evidence that is immutable, that is transnational, and everyone will start to accept in the future as your proof of what you've done and when you've done it. So we understand Web3 and blockchain technology, and we've got an understanding of intellectual property and the different types and the importance of that in securing your designs and your creativity. But what brings the two of them together? It's almost as if blockchain technology was designed to look after intellectual property in this way. We've identified that showing that you created the work and having that immutable evidence that you came first and that what you did is what you did when you say you did it, we can see now that blockchain technology being immutable and verified using a decentralized system is almost perfect for securing your intellectual property. Now, why hasn't that been widely adopted up until now? Although on the surface there's some immediate synergy between the two, what have been the problems that have actually halted or slowed the progress down in this space? Firstly, we have the fact that blockchain technology historically has been expensive. To secure an NFT or a token or something that would be beneficial in this instance, historically would have cost anywhere up to $250 per token. We are now in a situation where we've managed to get those gas fees really super incredibly low, that with Etched we can offer an unlimited etching subscription, and that basically means that you can scrap that $250, you can etch or create your NFTs, create your tokens at will. The other issue that people have faced is how do you actually prove that it's you that did the work that you are uploading, that you are putting onto the blockchain to claim? Now, until now, as we've mentioned, it was expensive to create a token or create an etch that was going to show your work in its entirety that goes onto the blockchain. Now, due to Etched's scalability and the capability to etch at will and create multiple, if not hundreds of thousands of etches, you can now show the creative process of your work. So when it comes down to proving the ownership, not only are you just taking a picture from online and saying this is mine, you now have the ability to etch and timestamp and authenticate every single step of that creative process. Now that means that the weight of your evidence is far, far more superior to anything that's come before it. So that solves the problem with allowing you to prove that claim over ownership of your intellectual property. Another problem that's potentially faced is that Web3 has historically been a very complex and difficult to use technology. Until now, people need to understand all of these wallet systems and the MetaMask and all these sort of 24-digit security codes and that kind of stuff. Now that's been a barrier to a lot of people, and it's obviously made a lot of people go, "Oh, blockchain, not interested." but we've managed to find a way of creating an interface that looks very Web 2. And if you remember back, I'm talking about an interface that is very familiar to what we've known for the last 15 years. Now, using that technology, we've managed to slap an interface on top of a very, very advanced Web3 wallet world, which enables anyone from creatives through to law firms and high IP generating companies to use us with ease. Obviously, we've advanced the technology substantially through our partners. One of the things that we have managed to do is create a filing system within a wallet. Now, this hasn't been done before. So now you're going to enter through your platform, you're going to be in this Web3 world, but you're going to be using this Web 2 interface, and it's going to look very familiar. You're going to be dropping and dragging your IP into the platform and then managing it in a filing system that looks very, very normal and very easy to use. Now, that's not been done before, and that's been another problem or another issue when it comes to actually managing your IP in this way. And then finally, the credibility of blockchain technology is now really on the rise. We look back in 2017 when it hit mainstream and everyone was trying to make money fast and what have you. And then it's kind of gone up and down and it's been very controversial. But now we are starting to see real world applications for blockchain technology. Big banks, BlackRock, NatWest, all of these big HSBCs are taking on blockchain technology. They're seeing this as the future. And it is the future, and that's why we see this as such a valuable mechanism to use for securing our IP. It's been suggested at times that blockchain technology is trying to crowbar its way into the real world. That people have been trying to find problems and then solve them with blockchain technology. But it's very, very clear that intellectual property timestamping and authenticating what you've done is almost perfect for blockchain technology. There's no crowbarring required. There's been some hiccups and there's been some problems, but now is the time. We've got the timing right. We'll be able to create a platform that you can use to secure your intellectual property at scale, at will, and create those independent libraries that are going to help you move forward with your company. So what actually is an etch? An etch is a token, and in our case it's a non-fungible token, an NFT. The NFT word often scares a lot of people, but what that basically means is that this particular block of evidence cannot be changed. It's immutable, and once it's gone through the blockchain, it is now transparent, immutable, secure and safe. But that still begs the question of what actually is an etch, and it's what we get asked all the time. Let's break it down. An etch is effectively a mirror image of your asset in a digital format that is online, that has been verified. Okay, it has been agreed that this is a representation of your work. And in doing so, that can now be used in various ways. And obviously through a decentralized system, it means transferring it, moving it around, proving it, and independently being able to see it is what it is. So copyright is an intangible asset. And as an intangible asset, it's really difficult to quantify and understand where and what it is and how to use it properly. By tokenizing an intangible asset, you almost bring it down from the clouds and give it a peg, you give it something to hang off. And in this way, you can transfer it, it becomes something that's valuable in its own right. So how do we use an etch? There's multiple user cases for etches. The first one being that we can consolidate and create an asset library. So if you're an artist, it's all of your artwork. If you're a musician, it's your lyrics, your music, your riffs, your artwork. All of those kind of things can all go into these asset libraries. And when you etch them onto the blockchain, you solidify them. You solidify them in time, and it makes them very, very tangible. Now, when it comes to consolidating your assets into a valuable portfolio, you now have something that can't be changed, and that has a lot more value to it as well. If you just had a spreadsheet full of your assets and someone came to value them, A, you would need to prove they was yours, and B, you could just change them, you can move them around, they're very, very flexible. But with an asset library that is etched onto the blockchain, it is what it is, and it has that immediate value because of that reason. An etch can also be used as a singular block of evidence to support your claim over the ownership of your intellectual assets. If, for example, you were in a situation where someone had used your work and then said it was theirs, you would be able to present your etch, which would be immutable evidence of and timestamping and verified that you have created what you've created when you say you've created it. Now, historically, that's not been the case. We've been able to use letters and emails and digital certificates, but they all have the ability to be changed. Nowadays, it's very, very easy. It doesn't take much for a coder to just quickly change the metadata on a photo or on a piece of music. It's too simple nowadays in the technological age we are in, and people do that. We know that what can go wrong will go wrong. So you need that gold standard piece of evidence that is going to stand the test of time and be immutable in court as to saying that you created your evidence first. Now, this evidence block, as well as being able to claim against infringement, can also protect you against someone claiming that you infringed on them. And this is why we call it an independent creation mechanism. It's almost like a fossil record of what you've done and when you've done it. So if there's nothing worse than someone pointing the finger at you and saying, hold on, you've stolen my idea, when you've sat at home and you've come up with that idea. Okay, that intellectual property is yours. It's come from your creativity, and then someone says that it's theirs. By showing your fossil record of your etches, you can then prove that you got there first, that you created that first. You might not be able to necessarily stop them from creating what they want, but you've certainly protected yourself, and it allows you to continue to create whatever it is that asset was. As we mentioned earlier, copyright is self-custodial. You need to prove that you did it first. No one's going to come to help you. And when it comes to someone pointing the finger at you, that becomes more valuable than ever. We also mentioned earlier that historically it's not been very cost effective to go through a lawyer, go through a law firm, or create an NFT to secure your work at scale. Now, because of the scalability, not only can we show that independent creation, that we can show that proof of timestamping, and we can show that creative process, we can also amend with ease. Say you've created something, you just want to tweak it ever so slightly. Now that tweak might need to go through a lawyer, and you might need to use a copyright or a trademark attorney just to kind of authenticate that last little change. But with Etched, you can just go straight on and go, right, okay, this is the next version. This is the next adaptation of what I've done, and just create those amendments with ease and security using our platform. The independent creation element of Etched also lends itself towards patents, and we call it our partial patent protection. Now, a patent, as we've mentioned earlier, is an invention or technology, and someone's got to the point where they've registered that patent and it is now theirs. If, however, you had been working on the same technology or the same invention independently, the fact that you've been etching and showing that fossil record of what you've done up to date, you're not necessarily, again, going to be able to kind of close down what they're doing, but you will be able to continue to develop your project and your creations without the fear of being taken down yourself. We often get asked, how can we use Etched to monetize our assets? Now, there's many ways. Now, we are looking at an aftermarket. So when it comes to actually trading your IP, so once you've created your asset library, you will be able to trade seamlessly using a decentralized service between peers. In that way, you'll be able to trade, earn money for selling your IP. Not just selling your IP, but we could also be in a licensing situation where you can license your IP out, be it music, artwork, animation, whatever it is, you can license that out for a fee, and it's all done swiftly, online, very simply, and it means that a lot more of those proceeds will go directly to the creator themselves. Etching can be used in collaborations as well. We've seen situations where you will have two artists that are working on a song together and want to be very clear and transparent as to who did what. Now, by etching your contributions to that song, or let's say technology, between two companies or between two universities that are working on a project, if you want to show that transparency as to who's done what in etching that tally system, at the end of the project, it will be far clearer who's done what and who gets what when it comes to the end of that project.